I figured we'd start off today's show, Rich, with Jorge Lopez and what happened yesterday with your Mets who were about to get swept.
It's embarrassing. The state of the Mets is embarrassing. Francisco Lindor, Nimmo, they called a team meeting after getting beat again. And I'm like, I don't know. Do team meetings work? Maybe once in a while that pumps up the team.
Better than not having one. I don't know if they work, but doing nothing also doesn't work.
I saw Mets owner Steve Cohen. Now, that was before the blown game after game against the Dodgers, saying that he still thinks the Mets are a wild card team, a playoff team. Let me tell you, third worst record in the National League with a payroll like that and high hopes. And I think all the feelings of Met fans and Mets players came out through Jorge Lopez yesterday.
Well, this is a question of, was Jorge Lopez misquoted? Was it a language barrier, or is it the media stirring things up again? And you're going to have to decide. It could be a little bit of everything here. I think we could all agree that if he wasn't misquoted, he wasn't necessarily wrong. The Mets stink, so it's very frustrating for sure.
But, all right, so the progression of events, he argues a check swing by Freddie Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Umpires had enough. You're out of here. Throws out Lopez on the way to the dugout. In total frustrated, like the guy's playing rec softball or high school baseball when you let your emotions get the best of you. The guy takes his glove, throws it over the netting into the crowd. Some lucky fans holding up sweet new black leather Rawlings.
Got to make it clear if you haven't seen it, though. It wasn't like an aggressive throw into the stands. It was almost like a frustrated toss.
Yeah, it
There's
was a
difference.
pop-up.
Yeah, it was like, it was just a toss up into the stands, almost like, here you go. I'm done with this.
But
a souvenir to the fans, nonetheless.
He untucked his jersey, had like an F everyone look on his face, and throws it up.
I just don't want the visual to be off, because when you say he threw the glove into the stands, he could have thrown it like at a fan. You know what I mean? That's not what happened.
I'm saying, I think it was worse that he untucked the jersey, just had that apathetic, like, I don't give an F look.
Yeah, it's not something you
tosses it. And then, here's where the real dramatic start. Like, already it's like, oh man, the Mets are in such a bad spot as a team that, like I said, sort of symbolizes where they're at this year. In fact, Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez, a couple of Mets legends on the broadcast, were sort of like, man, that's a bad look. That just shows where the team's at. Like, that's, like I said, symbolic of the fails so far in the 2024 campaign. But then they get to the locker room. Everyone has a moment to cool down. And our former coworker, really good dude, Steve Gelbs, who's like the main sideline reporter for SNY.
We had a TV show, Throwback Thursday, on SNY, live from Times Square, and we were working there when Steve Gelbs was just getting his feet wet. He replaced, why am I drawing a blank?
I don't know. I'm going to let you try to find the name.
Kevin Burkhardt.
There you go. I was going to say KB.
KB was the guy, and man, he had some swag back then.
And he had some shoes to fill.
He has some swag still, but Burkhardt was the guy. Gelbs replaced him, so we were there when all that happened and transitioned.
So Gelbs, been doing this for like a decade now.
Yeah.
Gets to talk to Jorge Lopez, and you're thinking, oh, here's this guy's opportunity to say, I overreacted, my bad, sorry to my teammates. And Gelb starts with, do you regret it? Take a listen.
I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst teammate probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened. So, whatever they want to do it. I'll be tomorrow here if they want me, whatever they want to do. So, I'm going to keep doing this thing, So, I'm healthy on whatever, on whatever to do. I'm ready to come back tomorrow, and if they want me to be here, so I'll be here.
Well, you're not here, because a couple hours later, he was let go by the New York Mets. But there's a part of this we're missing. Did you get the follow-up from Gelbs?
Gelbs wanted to clarify. Hold on. Did you just say that you're playing for the worst team in the MLB? And he sort of confirms, like, yeah, that's what I said. But still, when you listen to what he actually said, he says teammate. He does say teammate. So there's a clear language barrier because Gelbs does the investigation and he does say, hey, is that what you meant? And Lopez does double down on, yeah, that's what I meant. But then you fast forward to today and he said, no. That's not what I said. He says he's talking about himself being a bad teammate. He didn't call the Mets the worst team in MLB.
All right, take a listen to the follow-up from Gelbs.
Just to clarify what you said, just because I didn't fully understand, did you say I'm on the worst team? Is that what you had said?
Probably, it looked like.
And that they were embarrassed by you? Is that what you?
Yeah, they do.
Probably looks like.
Yeah, but he's just.
Are you saying
you're
on the? Are you saying you're on the worst team? Probably looks like.
I know Gelbs is doing a great job, and he's great at what he does. So it's no knock on him, but I think he almost put those words in his mouth at that point.
No, when a guy says,
but you're not listening to the words that Lopez said. Lopez says teammate. When you're reading the script, because when this clip went viral, you're reading and it says team.
Yeah.
But you're like, hold on, he said teammate. So you have to believe the guy when he comes back later on and says, wait, hold on. Language barrier. That's not what I said. I said I'm the worst teammate. And then when you listen to what he says after that, he's talking about himself and about him and him and him. So I do believe him. It's really a question of, do you believe the original story or is the media just stirring things up? Or do you believe the follow-up, which came out today, courtesy of SNY and ESPN?
He said he doesn't regret it. And then I heard him say, I play for the worst effing team in baseball.
This is a matter of Green Needle and what was that?
Brainstorm.
Green
Needle.
Right when you texted this to all of us in the group chat yesterday afternoon, Rich, Covino and I heard the same thing the very first time we played the clip. In fact, what did I tell you, Covino, right after we looked at it?
Sounded like he said teammate.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. It sounded like he said teammate.
But the story was he said team. And that's why he was designated for assignment, because it's a bad look.
Yeah.
And nobody needs that type of attitude in the locker room and then going public with that sort of statement.
I also don't think Steve Gelbs led him. I think Steve Gelbs... No. I think Steve Gelbs heard what I heard.
I don't think that was his intent, Rich. I just said it sounds like he fed him something and he just agreed with it. Like, I guess. Like yeah, probably.
Play one more time. I mean... I don't think Gelbs was looking for something salacious. I think he genuinely heard.
I don't either.
Whoa,
so let
what?
me make that clear. I'm not saying Gelbs was looking for the salacious headline. I think that's what he thought he heard, but that's not what he said. Take a listen to Jorge Lopez.
I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst team probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened. So. Tomorrow here is they want me, whatever they want to do.
Stop it there. So. I think he said the worst team in the whole effing MLB.
Okay, I heard team and.
So you could believe whatever you want, right? And you could believe the story that came out yesterday, which was he said team, or you could believe what came out today. So that's really what it comes down to. Do you believe what came out yesterday, or do you believe what came out today, which is he's saying, I didn't say that. I said I was a bad teammate. I didn't call the Mets the worst team in the MLB.
He was talking about himself in that clip.
That's also courtesy of SNY as of today and ESPN, who reported it. That's what he said. He said, I don't regret it, but he was frustrated with himself. So it's really a matter of what you believe. What do you believe? Is he doing damage control today?
He absolutely. In fact, the last thing SNY tweeted,
it sounds like a major language barrier to me.
The last thing the Mets network, SNY, put on social media was a progression of the event. 7 p.m., questions the check swing. 7:01 p.m., ejected. 7:01, throws a glove into the stands. Fast forward a couple hours. Now we're looking at 9 o'clock. He gets let go by the team.
Yeah, but 5 hours ago, he's saying, whoa, that's not what he said.
Take a listen.
That was the latest report.
Take a listen to the follow-up from Gelbs yesterday.
Just to clarify what you said, just because I didn't fully understand, did you say I'm on the worst team? Is that what you had said?
Probably, it looked like.
Does that sound like a guy that
understands anything? They were embarrassed by you? Is that
probably looks like?
Rich, what would you say if you didn't know the language?
Rich, you know how some guys have translators and we know they don't really need them? In this case, it sounds like he really needs one because it doesn't sound like he understands the follow-up question.
Can I tell you, Jorge Lopez loves both of you, and you know what? For his sake, he'll get another chance somewhere probably, but he's hoping that everyone is on Team Danny G and Covino, where it's like, language barrier.
Regardless, he wasn't wrong, because your Mets are garbage.
Everything about his attitude, from arguing the pitch, throwing the glove in the stands, is that not sort of on brand with, yeah, I'm on the worst effing team? Like, it seems like the guy had a moment.
He did what everybody on that team wants to do. And it's a matter, in Fox Sports Radio Nation, we leave it to you. You heard where I stand. It's a matter of, do you believe the original story, or do you believe the latest story from SNY? It's the same source. The same source, and then ESPN reported this 5 hours ago, that that's not what he said. Or that's what he's saying. That's not what he said. He said teammate, not team. But if he said team on a personal note, me personally, I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit if that's what he said.
Well, see, according to, it's funny because you're getting all these different sources, and there's a big sports writer in New York that followed up with,
well, because that's the juicier story, though. Rich.
Followed up with, he said both when asked again. Like, yeah, I'm a bad teammate and I'm on the worst team.
Well, because that's what Gelbs led him to say. He's like, is that what he said? He's like, yeah, probably. I mean, we heard it 3 times. You make the call. I'm telling you where I stand on it. 877-99 on Fox, but it did make me think this. We hear stories, we hear rumblings, we watch it with our own eyes to see how frustrating it is sometimes when you're playing for a bad team. But I don't think we really understand how bad it could get. Like how miserable and toxic it could get in the locker room when things are that bad.
Anthony,
you know what I mean? Like, that's how frustrating. What we saw is what people usually keep behind closed doors in the locker room, as they should. I'm not defending his behavior. I'm just saying I understand. I think we fail to realize sometimes how bad it really gets because we've never really been there. Imagine being under those bright lights, 162 games with people that don't care, with people that are half-assing it, not putting the heart and effort that you put into it. You're just losing every day, embarrassing. Your value's going down. You're struggling. You're mentally struggling. We don't know the nightmare that they go through. We hear about it.
You've heard athletes talk about the difference in a clubhouse or locker room of a winning team and a losing team. In fact,
this is about as close as you're going to get to seeing it.
I mean, I have an example that I'll tell you in a second, but 9:19 last night. This is after the Gelbs interview. Anthony DiComo, who is a big reporter in New York for sports, works with SNY. Regarding the confusion of whether or not Lopez was on the worst team or was the worst teammates, Lopez explained to teammates and other members of the media that it was a combination of both. He claims that he's the worst teammate on the worst team.
Well, that's what he said. And then he also just agreed with Gelbs. What aren't you hearing? Now you're confusing me because you're going back to 9 p.m. yesterday when I'm telling you 5 hours ago, the update is he said he was the worst teammate. It's right here.
Confused.
It's right here. So why are you sticking with that?
Because we're seeing things on the same timeline, because I'm seeing on SNY, the Mets network, on Instagram 4 hours ago, what I'm reading to you now.
Okay. 5 hours ago on ESPN via SNY. That's not what he said. That's not what he said.
Well,
and again, that could be great PR, damage control. Let's get this guy picked up somewhere else. Let's not make him the worst. I'm with you there, Rich. I'm with you. It could be just, hey, they spun it because it sounded like he could have said both. But I do believe he said teammate. I do. And then he was sort of led somewhere else, and out of frustration, he agreed. Look, there's a language barrier here. As you've been saying over and over again the past few days, you got to give him some grace here. He's playing for the weakest team. No one's going to debate that. I think there's a language barrier. I do. So what you're saying is, yes, see. Oh, so I guess he is saying it. Yeah, probably.
He's been playing in the big since 2015. From Puerto Rico.
What do you guys think? It's interesting, actually. It's a really good question. It's a matter of, do you believe the original story or do you believe the update?
I don't know.
It's not a guy that came up through the Mets system, so it's not like he owes them anything. Like a lot of foreign players feel like a closeness to the team that drafted them from a foreign land. They have that connection, right? This is a guy that's been through the bigs. Milwaukee Brewers. He started with Dan Byers' team in 2015. Kansas City Royals, Baltimore Orioles, Minnesota Twins, Miami Marlins, Baltimore again. Then the Mets. So, just a thought. Could they be? I think they're just trying to go easy on this guy because the Mets are in a rough spot, and the guy's been let go. So go somewhere else. You know, I mean, he'll fill someone else's middle bullpen.
But I
role.
do hear teammate. I hear teammate. You know, he did throw his glove. He did show frustrations. It's possible he said team.
And again, he's been in the league for 10 years.
When you read team, you hear team.
He's in his 30s.
But if you're thinking teammate, or can you do me a favor? Can we do an experiment?
Yeah.
Can you think teammate, and maybe you'll hear teammate? Iowa Samuel, if you don't mind, one more time. Everybody, Fox Sports Radio Nation.
Close your eyes unless you're driving.
Close your eyes and think teammate.
Okay.
I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst teammate probably in the whole MLB. So, you know, whatever happened. So, whatever they want to do it. I'll be tomorrow here if they want me, you know, whatever they want to do. So
yeah, well, whatever they want to do is get rid of you.
He's talking about repercussions after being the worst teammate in the MLB. That's how I took it.
That's
the
how I took
first
it too.
time I heard it.
I did too. I was like, it didn't sound like he said team to me.
Well, he'll find the new home.
Yeah,
somewhere.
he's no longer a Met. And by the way,
good for him.
I
would want to get off that team too.
You could say what a Bush League baby move, right? What a sports baby throwing his glove and crying and breaking unwritten rules of disparaging your team and teammates to the public. But he got out of that nightmare. So there's another discussion in itself. By doing the wrong thing, did he do the right thing for himself? I don't know.
Yes.
By the way,
now. You know who another, quote, innocent man is? Jorge Lopez, Dan Byer. What a producing news anchor. Printed out the statement. First and foremost, this is the Met who threw his glove into the crowd and then said he was the worst team in baseball.
That we spent the first hour discussing.
Yeah. First and foremost, I apologize to my teammates, coaches, fans, and front office. I feel like they let them down today, both on and off the field. I also want to clarify my post-game remarks because I had no intention of disparaging the New York Mets organization. During that interview, I spoke candidly about my frustrations with my personal performance and how I felt it made me the worst teammate in the entire league. Unfortunately, my efforts to address the media in English created some confusion and generated headlines that do not reflect what I was trying to express. I wish the team the best and hope that God continues to give me the strength to, move on with his personal professional life.
I hope that sums it up. Is that a great spin, or is that the truth?
Either way.
I think that's what happened.
Either way, leave him alone.
You remember when Joe Rogan had the epiphany to not interview fighters after they lost and after they got knocked out because they're not in the right state of mind, so he doesn't do that anymore?
Yeah.
I think this is a lesson learned here. It's like when you're speaking to somebody with a language barrier, you can't just assume and run with the story that he disparaged the team. Because guess what? Now he has no job, and for an entire 24-hour cycle, everybody in sports built a reputation for this guy that he didn't even really deserve. He was taking accountability of his own crappy actions, and we ran with the bleeding story. That's not fair at all. And I think that people should have learned a major lesson from this.
It's a very good point, Covino, because it is also why some athletes strictly use an interpreter.
Yep.
Some people feel that it's the opposite, that they're hiding or want to say it, but it's for that reason. There's also a reporter aspect to this where, because of media guidelines, and this may have popped up in COVID, but it sometimes always seems to be a deal of a cool-off period from the game. And reporters and media are like, we don't want to wait an hour afterwards. Like, we want the real emotion because that's what you get when you're in media. But there are two sides to everything, and this story has multiple facets just in regard to how you deal with media and how you use possibly an interpreter.
Yeah, I was
media.
thinking about this. I'm like,
blame the Mets here. Then where was the guy? Where was the organization backing up their player?
Well, I mean, he chose not to have an interpreter, which is odd because there's never been a time in baseball
then you
history.
Don't lean into something you're not 100% confident about, even though they tried to get the words out of his mouth. That's not. He was having a hard time in that situation.
I don't know. There's never been a time in baseball history where an interpreter has gone wrong.
I know.
No one. No.
no.
No one.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, Shohei, I got it. But I'm just saying, like, I think it's a lesson learned here, Alice in Chains style.